I love the Cinema 70. To me, it's the best AV receiver for most people. It's compact and has 50 watts on board. It has everything that you need to enjoy a home theater experience without needing to get too far into the weeds. But you can expand it with a full suite of pre-outs. The Cinema 60 raises the bar with 100 watts of power, Class AB into 8 ohms. It also adds one extra HDMI input, one each extra RCA optical and coaxial inputs, and it extends Odyssey from multi-Q to multi-Q XT, though you don't get direct on this receiver. For that you need to hop up to the Cinema 50. It's also taller, 6.5 inches high versus the 4.3 inches high on the Cinema 70, but it's also shallower at 13.5 inches deep versus 14.7 on the 70. There's also a whole bunch of similarities too. There's 7.2 channels, multi-channel preamp out for 7.2 channels, 6 HDMI inputs plus eARC, 8K and Dolby Atmos, HDMI upscaling from 1080p 4K to 8K. It's got HIOS built in, a 5-year warranty, the Marantz 70% guarantee. It's got Dolby, True HD, Atmos height virtualization, Dolby Atmos music, Dolby Surround, DTS, DTS HD, X, Neural X, and Virtual X. A moving magnet phono input, a front USB input, a front quarter-inch headphone output, AM/FM tuner, AirPlay 2, TuneIn Radio, Spotify Connect, Pandora, SiriusXM, Amazon Music HD, Tidal, Deezer, SoundCloud, Napster, Moodmix, iHeartRadio. It's room-tested, Ethernet and Wi-Fi is on board, and it has voice assistant capability for Alexa, HomePods, and Google Voice. It's something that I don't dare try because if my kids find out that I have voice assistant enabled on anything, I end up hearing fart sounds all day. Anyway, it's got just about everything that you want packed into a modestly priced package at $1,700 US. And of course, if you wouldn't mind liking the video, subscribing to the channel, it'll help me out a ton and help me get more products like this Marantz in for review. Hopefully, I can get one of their higher spec AV receivers too, just to, see what it's like. The Cinema 60 is packaged in Marantz's new look aesthetic, and it's no surprise that I love it. It instantly elevates my space, and I enjoy interacting with it. I do, of course, prefer the Cinema 50 with its front panel button cover. However, they do manage to do a good job with the layout and keeping the labeling to a minimum. On the front, you get the trademark porthole design front and center, which sits below the golden Marantz word mark. On the left, you have an input dial, and on the right, volume. To the right of that, you get a 1/4-inch headphone jack. And below that, you get the Odyssey mic input and an array of buttons. From the left, Pure Direct, MDAC, Zone 2 on and off, tuner preset, dimmer, status, sound mode, and just to the right of that, you have a USB audio input. The back, of course, is well-organized chaos, just about everything you need to get connected. It's well labeled and cleanly organized. I will, of course, leave a link down below to the detailed specs that you could pore over at your leisure if you care to. The remote is really nice. It's backlit when dark and a joy to use. It is a bit of a button orgy, but everything you need is readily available. I set this up in my living room atop my media unit and got everything connected. My living room is dual purpose, meaning I listen to music and watch movies in there. And I'm in a condo and my living room is on the smaller side. So just bear in mind that while watching this review, room filling sound to me may not be room filling sound to you, depending on how big your room is and what equipment you have set up in there. I initially set this up standalone, connected to my Apple TV 4K, a turntable, and my 3000i speakers from Q Acoustics. 3030i's as fronts, the 3020i for the rears, and the 3090ci as the center. I kept the center in place when I did switch out to the Sonus Faber Lumina 2s and the Sonetto 2s, the Bucart P3 and the Sub 10, the Quad Revela 1s and the 2s. Then I also switched out to full theater packages like the Martin Logan XTF 100 with the CT 100 center and the Q Acoustics 5010s acting as the rears, and then also the Arendal Monitor STHX monitor with the matching center and their surrounds. I use the B&W 610 as my sub of choice. With the Arendal package, I use the Sub 1S. With the Martin Logan package, I use the Dynamo 10 subwoofer. And with the Bucarts, I use the Sub 10. But as I did step up into larger speakers, I also integrated. The MA5300 from Macintosh, the Evo 150, and EXA 100, both from Cambridge Audio. And I kept one subwoofer connected to the Marantz and the other one connected to the integrated amplifier wherever possible and wherever needed, depending on how full range I wanted the front speakers to be. Right from the jump, the interface of the Marantz Cinema 60 is awesome. I love using it. It's extremely easy to navigate, it's a full color takeover, and it isn't filled with technical jargon. It's just what you need if you're a novice getting started, and then from there you can dive in depending on how far into the weeds you decide to get. And if you don't like using the on-screen menus, you can always use the Marantz app, and you can control your settings and your functionality all there if you want to. I just really like the on-screen menus, so I just use that instead. I first went with the Odyssey calibration with just the receiver standalone and the 3000i package. It worked, but I did find the fronts were brought down in volume a little bit, and the rears being so close to my head were just a bit too loud, so I adjusted for this, and everything sounded better. And I readjusted this every time I recalibrated with new speakers in place. With the Arendelle and Martin Logan packages, I did make a few more adjustments, mostly with the crossover points lower for the bigger speakers. With an integrated amp in place, like the Evo 150 from Cambridge Audio, I did have one notable exception in that I set the Marantz to full range pre-outed into the front left and rights because I always had a subwoofer connected to the integrated amp, like the Evo 150 or the EXA 100, just because I like full range music, and anything that whatever speaker I have connected to it, if it didn't dig low enough, I use the sub to sort of fill in that low end, and I'd rather have it than not have it, so that was my main difference. The Cinema 60 is more than enough for a package like the 3000i's from Q Acoustics. If I'm being honest, I skated through with the Cinema 70 with that package and had no complaints whatsoever. With 100 watts of power, or at least the 70 watts of guaranteed power, was more than enough in most cases. I was treated to sure-footed sound with plenty of dynamics and immersion. And because my room is small, the Cinema 60 had enough juice to power packages like the XTF 100s from Martin Logan and the Arendelle Monitor STHX packages that I had. It had enough scale, dialogue was really clear, and it was immersive enough. Though I did prefer both of those larger packages with the pre-outs in place connected to an integrated. With a movie like Blade Runner, where the surround field is seemingly engaged all the time, it's nice to be able to have a setup that is able to handle big swings in dynamics and sound. And I did prefer having an integrated amplifier in place for setups like this or instances like this. Streaming music via HIOS versus on the Apple TV is louder. I won't say better, it just sounds louder, and I prefer listening off HIOS versus the Apple TV. My kids, on the other hand, prefer the Apple TV because that's the only thing they want to use, and I refuse to give them my phone to control music because they take pictures up their nose and stuff. It's just a disaster. There's 1,000 extra pictures on my phone whenever I did leave it with them, so I leave them to the Apple TV, but I do notice a big volume swing or difference between the Apple TV and the Marantz itself. But truthfully, when it comes to listening to music, because I have it integrated in place, I prefer like the Cambridge CXN V2 or the Evo 150 with streaming directly built in. I'm just used to that interface. I like the app on my phone. It's just a personal, I'm used to it. I'm a Cambridge fanboy. I just like their products. If I only had the Marantz, I'd be fine with just straight HIOS for music. I just control Spotify on my phone. Spotify Connect is seamless. It works every single time. It works. If you keep your front speakers modest, like the 3030i's, Bucart P300s, Lumina 2s, B&W 606 S3s, you'll never be left wanting for more juice. For my size room, and even a medium-sized room, I think the Cinema 60 is more than enough for small, medium, to even large-ish speaker packages. And while I won't necessarily speak about how the Cinema 60 sounded with every single one of those speakers, what I will say is the Cinema 60 never struggled to power any one of those speakers that I did connect to it. With movies like Prey, where it does have those big, loud, impactful moments, it also has a lot of quiet, subtle moments, like when they're panning the planes or when she's just kind of walking around in her environment. I felt like I was immersed in her environment. I felt like I was hearing the wind. I felt like I was hearing bugs. And all of that was coming from the Cinema 60. And then replaying the water fight scene from Blade Runner without the XTF 100s connected to the Macintosh, but solely powered by the Cinema 60, in my room, 90-95% as impactful, as loud, as immersive as it was with the Macintosh connected. That's pretty damn good. The thing I like about the Cinema 60 the most is it always worked. There was never an issue I had to Google. No HDMI handshakes, no dead inputs, no sound dropouts. It was reassuringly consistent, and it made my life easier by not causing a fuss. Macintosh, Rotel, my Apple TV 4K, even my old Samsung TV all gave me issues throughout the course of doing these reviews over the last few months, and it's just nice to have a component that's just worry-free. Plug it in, it works. I know if there's an issue, it's not the Marantz Cinema 60. Truthfully, the thing that I enjoyed most about the Cinema 60 was the peace of mind that 100 watts of power brings. I've been using the Cinema 70 for the past year or so as my AV receiver of choice, partnering that with a wide range of speakers of different sizes and different power. And I was just fine with that. But knowing that my rear speakers and my center channel had that extra power, and the front, left, and right were almost always pre-outed to whatever massive, crazy speaker package that I had in the house, meant that I was always going to be powering the other three speakers properly with the Cinema 60, where on the Cinema 70, there was always maybe a bit of a question of, am I getting the most out of it? And when I had the Rendell and the Martin Logan packages with those giant center channels, one would hope to have enough juice to power that size speaker. And I felt like I had it with the Cinema 60. From my perspective as an enthusiast versus a hardcore technical expert in home theater, the Cinema 60 is a perfect one-component solution for music and movies. Provided that you keep your speaker options modest, not overly power-hungry, you can get away with just the Cinema 60 and your favorite speaker package. The 3000i package from Q Acoustics was a perfect example of that. If you wanted to go and blow this out in the future, you can connect an integrated amplifier like I did and connect some of the craziest speaker packages if you want to. Having 7.2 pre-out ability, meaning 2 subwoofers and 7 channels, meaning you can connect a 7-channel amplifier, a 5-channel, and a 2-channel. You can go as crazy as you want with this amplifier, and it's the kind of product that can just grow with you over time. I can't recommend this product enough. I think it's wonderful, and if you're looking for an AV receiver and you don't need it to be super compact like the Cinema 70, look at the 60.